March 11th of this year, we celebrate the fourth Sunday of Lent. Today is Latere Sunday, a Latin phrase that means rejoice, and it's an imperative that we must rejoice. And it's part of the wisdom of the Church that says as we continue our journey of penance, we take a moment to pause and realize that God has already won, and the days of Lent are drawing to a close. And so we rejoice. And that's why the priest and the ministers wear the pink color today, or more accurately, the rose colored. Today's theme comes from the entrance antiphon, which is from Isaiah chapter 66, and it says, "Rejoice, Jerusalem, and all who love her, be joyful. All who were in mourning, exult and be satisfied at her consoling breast." So we celebrate. Our first reading from today is from the second book of Chronicles. And this is the only time in the 3-year cycle that we hear from this book of Chronicles. The passage is important because it shows us, I think, a pattern of how God acts to us and then how we are to react to God. There's a continuing theme in the Hebrew Scriptures. You see, Israel is God's chosen people. They are the ones who are supposed to be a light to all the nations. By their fidelity to God, they will attract all the nations together. But the problem is that Israel keeps falling into infidelity. And so we hear that in today's first reading. They added infidelity to infidelity, practicing all the abominations of the nations. So how does God react to our infidelity? Does God give up on us? The resounding answer in the Bible is no. God never gives up on us. So this is the pattern. God sends messenger after messenger after messenger to remind us of our part of the covenant, to be faithful in response to God's overwhelming fidelity to us. Think of all the prophets, Hosea, Jeremiah, Isaiah. How did we react to the prophets? Again, back to today's first reading. We mocked the messengers of God, despised his warnings, and scoffed at his prophets. And now we find an uncomfortable image of God. God is inflamed with anger. God's anger is enkindled. How do we understand an angry God? It's important in the Bible, anger is not an emotional response. Rather, in the Bible, anger is symbolic for God's deep passion to set things right. God's deep desire to help us be the people that we're supposed to be, a light for the nations and a holy people. What happens? From time to time, Israel must be cleaned out so that we can start over. Think about if you are redoing a house, and if the house has mold in it or rot, you can't just simply paint over it and pretend like it's not there. You have to go in and clean it all out and rebuild the house. And it seems as if that's what God does for us. That's why the second book of Chronicles says, the enemies have burned their houses, torn down the walls of Jerusalem, destroyed precious objects. What appears to be disastrous really is an ancient of God's cleansing work in us. So what in your life looks disastrous now? Maybe God is getting ready for a new work in us, a way to help us be faithful and be the people God made us to be.